Welcome back, troglodytes, to the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today we have a 2017 Gibson Les Paul Tribute T, which is essentially a model based off of a 50s Les Paul, kind of in a studio format. So let's talk about this guitar a little bit. It was offered in faded honeyburst finish, as well as satin gold. Why those two colors? Well, that's what the color a Les Paul was back in the 50s. You had the gold tops until early 58, and then you just had the bursts before they were done away with. These were sold at $999 new, so just a little bit under $1,000 for a nice looking Les Paul, and they were offered with a gig bag, unfortunately. This model actually has a few interesting features to it. First off, it's fairly lightweight, just a bit over 8 pounds, due to 9-hole weight relief. But the finish for these guys, it's a satin finish, but the top is a little bit glossier feeling than usual. So it's not your normal faded satin for the top, but it's definitely that for the back. Now that might just be for the gold top version, I'm not sure, I haven't had the honeyburst. It's also possible that somebody just polished the top of this one up. But another interesting feature here is you can see that they left the maple cap exposed. What that does is it makes it look like it has binding. And that's something that modders have been doing for years, but Gibson is finally wisening up and using that on some of their higher end studio models. Gibson also claims that this is a thicker than usual rosewood fretboard. I compared it to another unbound neck, and it's a little bit thicker, but not a lot. So let's go ahead and throw this one on the workbench and get some more details on this. Here's what we got under the hood. A pair of Gibson 490R and 490T pickups. You don't see them use that set as often. Usually that's paired with the 498T, with the neck pickup reading 7.65 k ohms in the circuit, and the bridge pickup is a 7.89, whereas if that was a 498T, it would be about twice as hot. Looking in the pickup cavities, it doesn't appear there's any type of identifying marks. They probably are there, but under the finish. These do ship with pick guards on them. However, if you remove them, that's what they'll look like. You do have 2 small holes that will show where the screws were, though. A nice feature that not all studios have is this is nickel hardware, so it'll age a little bit different from chrome, and it is lightweight. So that means it's made from aluminum. Your average Gibson bridge weighs a little under 2 ounces, whereas these, they're always usually around 1 ounce. Your tailpiece is made from the same material by advanced plating, and once again, lightweight. Another cool feature with this bridge is notice that the posts are open. Why is that? Well, it's because you can now use an Allen key to adjust your action while under string tension. You see how that moves the wheel? That is definitely a nice feature. You have your reflector knobs, which are reminiscent of a 1960 burst, and your rounded off thumb bleeders. The truss rod cover itself reads Tribute, and this is what the truss rod channel looks like. You have a 2017 Made in USA model, and the serial number, and Gibson Clusen Deluxe tuners. Inside the back control cavity, you can see that these utilize the Gibson PCB system with 4 Gibson branded pots, and that means your pickups are quick connect, so you can swap them out easily if you prefer something else. The back plates are also the textured variety. This is something I just recently learned since doing that 2019 SG video, is that these ones have built-in shielding capabilities to them. So instead of conductive paint on the inside, they've infused these back plates with stainless steel, which is better for shielding it, and it fights against static electricity. The specs on these guys is a maple top with a mahogany body, which you can also see along the edge here because they do not put a finish to give it a fake binding vibe. And you do have a rosewood fretboard on this one, which is currently being conditioned, but great wood grain on it. This particular example weighs just a hair over 8 pounds, with a 60s neck profile. So overall, if you're looking for a modern studio with a gold top finish or even the Honeyburst, I heavily recommend the Tribute series guitars. Now there's this one, the Tribute T from 2017, but there's also other 50s and 60s, even 70s tribute guitars. They really are fantastic instruments. Don't look down upon studios. I mean, take it from me, I've owned tons of high-end Les Pauls and other guitars, and most times the studios play just as good and sometimes almost feel a little bit better in my hands. Sometimes that's just because I'm not as scared to really hammer on these guitars because, well, if I break a $700 guitar, yes, I'm gonna have a bad day, but not as nearly as a bad day of breaking a $10,000 guitar. So now that we know a little bit more about this guitar and seen its insides, let's go ahead and hear how this one sounds. know how this instrument sounds, let's go ahead and review its condition. I actually got this one as part of a trade. It was a 3-for-1 deal for a Les Paul Custom. I didn't necessarily want to make the trade, but it was just to make the guy happy. So you've got some light scratches on the headstock, and the truss rod works just fine. You're going to see the nut on the G string was cut a hair too deep. So what the original owner did is he just put like a piece of, it's not masking tape, but that's kind of what it feels like. But he just put that in there to prevent the buzzing. I mean, it would be best to plan on replacing that though. Rosewood fretboard is in great shape. I just conditioned that, cleaned and polished the frets. So besides some slight buzzing on the G string, your playability is pretty good. The action is fully adjustable yet if you want it a little bit lower. The top has some very minor impressions, but you know, for the most part, it looks pretty good. There's not a lot to go over condition-wise on this one. The plastic is still on the pickguard. I would advise taking that off before it kind of discolors the pickguard. It usually takes a few years for that to happen though. Original 490 quick connect pickups in here, and original bridge and tailpiece as we were looking at earlier. Back of the headstock, serial number 170036329, 2017 model with your original Gibson Clusen Deluxe tuners. You've got a 60s neck on this one. It's fairly thin feeling. I mean, it's rounded, but not quite SG 60s thin. But no major nicks or dings on the back of the neck on this one. But a nice satin finish on these. I like that they left it really satiny on the back, but a little bit glossier on the top. That's like my favorite combination there. So you've got some light wear and tear on the back, but I love the mahogany on this one. Nice and active. All original electronics on here. Sides of the guitar, again, you can see that maple cap exposed. Now, you do have a few light nicks and dings along the edge where the binding would be. You can see some minor cracking marks on this plastic output jack ring. The large Gibson styled buttons. And here's a few of those dings we were talking about. And I believe this is a slight discoloration in the wood, or it might be an impression mark of some sort. And you can see some impression marks right there. But overall, this thing's in pretty good shape. Under Blacklight, you can see it glows beautifully. Not too much to really go over on the top. Sides of the instrument, similar story. Just once again, some light impression marks. Back of the guitar, glowing nicely as well. And the back of the neck. You can tell this one's been played a bit because some sweat has absorbed into the finish, which makes it glow a little bit more. And no breaks, cracks, or repairs to this example. So everything's looking good here. This instrument still retains its original Gibson USA gig bag. I guess it's better than nothing. I'm not really a fan of gig bags, especially for long-term storage. But hey, it's what it was initially issued with. I mean, I do want to be forthcoming that the gig bag as well as the guitar have a heavy pet and smoke odor to them. It's been airing out while I've owned it, and I deeply cleaned the guitar to get rid of some of that, so it's not quite as bad as when I got it, but it's always good to know just in case you have allergies. If you think you might be interested in being the next owner of this Gibson Les Paul Tribute T, feel free to check out the link in the description. That will take you to the Reverb for sale ad. Thank you, Troglodytes, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you on the next episode. Take care.